I'm like nervous because I know this is my first video. Hi ladies and everyone, I'm Robin Caldwell. Welcome to Rip and Cobweb, the show where I make whatever I want. And today I'm going to show you how to make whatever you want by teaching you the basics of knitting. I bring this tote bag with me pretty much everywhere I go so that I can have a project on the go wherever I am. Right now I'm making a scarf, and everybody in my life has obviously noticed that I do this, and a few people have even asked me for lessons. I figured I would make a video to send people if they want to learn, or to supplement their learning. If they start and stop and pick it up again later, I just figured I would make a reference. So let's learn. Today I'm just going to be teaching you the basics. I'm going to teach you how to cast on, knit, and cast off. So by the end of this video, you should be able to make either a washcloth like I have here, or you can just keep going and turn it into a scarf. It's exactly the same. Scarves just take longer. So yeah, congratulations on picking up a new skill. Let's get started. So first of all, we're going to go over supplies. Obviously you need yarn and you need needles. Now, here's a general rule of thumb. Try and make sure the needles and your yarn are like a similar width. If the yarn's really, really thick and chunky, it's going to be harder to work with small needles. If the needles are super big, you're going to end up with a really loose knit. Sometimes you want a loose knit, but that's not what we're going for today. They don't have to be exactly the same width, but just, you know, something similar. Now I'm using circular knitting needles just because I'm working at my desk and these will be a little bit easier to use at my desk. You can also use longer ones like this. I leave it up to you. I will say in general, I prefer using circular knitting needles just because I knit on the go a lot, and these are just like a little bit easier on the go, but you know, whatever. And when you're picking out your yarn, I would say try to stay clear of like really dark yarn, you know, dark brown, black, navy blue, those kinds of colors, just because it'll be a little bit harder to see what you're doing. I would really recommend using light colored yarn or multicolored yarn especially, because it'll be really easy to see your rows and see what you're doing. And when you're starting off, you got to be able to see what you're doing, right? This yarn is in what we call a skein, which is this kind of log shape that it's in currently. I personally prefer to use yarn that is in a ball shape. So I like to, when I get a new skein, I like to wind it up into a ball for myself. There are also machines that you can buy that will do this for you. I don't have one of those. I've heard good things. I personally kind of like winding it by hand, so that's what I'll be doing right now. You don't have to do this step. I personally recommend it. It just makes things a little bit easier. So in order to wind it up, I recommend putting your yarn in maybe a bag that you're holding, or in some kind of heavy bowl, like a glass bowl or ceramic bowl, just so that it doesn't go too far when you're winding it. And then we're gonna take a bit of yarn, 4 fingers, wrap it around a few times, and then once we've got a few loops on there, we're gonna pinch them at the middle like this and wind them around like this, so that we've got this kind of almost bow tie effect. And then we're gonna fold it in half, keep winding, and then just kind of wrap it around itself over and over again, and eventually you will get a ball. All right, so now we've got our ball, and this is why I like balls, because look at how much yarn I can pull without it falling out of the bowl. Ugh, so much easier to work with. Okay, so now it's time to begin. So the first thing you're going to do is tie a slip knot in the end of your yarn. So if you don't know how to tie a slip knot, basically you tie a knot, but instead of pulling this end through all the way, you're just going to keep it in a loop. Boom, there you go. And then you've got a nice little slip knot. So now we're going to cast on. This was a tip that my mom gave me when she taught me how to knit. When you cast on, especially early on and you're still learning how to knit, cast on to both needles at once. Just put them together like this with the pointy ends on one end and cast on like this, because it'll mean that your initial stitches are nice and loose. I always hold this end of the slip knot. I just kind of hold this here to keep it out of the way. And then you are going to wind it around, creating a loop, and then you're going to put them through like that. Now this takes practice. So you pull it, make a loop, and pull it through. And make sure that it looks like that. Because if you just do a loop and then put it through like that, it'll just kind of wind around. Make a loop, put it through, like that. So this is the part where you establish the width of your work. So how thick do you want your scarf or dishcloth to be? A good way to test the width is when they're still on the 2 needles like this, spread them out. This will be about the width of what you're making. So now we've got our 2 needles together. Very carefully, you're going to pull 1 needle out of the stitches that you have so far. So basically I'm going to pull out the bottom. So I'm going to kind of hold the top one, hold this in place, try to keep it from slipping. Don't let it slip off of the top needle. And There you go. And now here is how you actually knit. So first of all, you see how at the bottom of each of these stitches we've got kind of a little bit of a knot, these little knots. Try to keep those towards the bottom because that is the direction that our work will be going. Got the stitches here, loops up. We're going to start with this first loop here. We're going to take this needle on the right. Try to keep this yarn a bit taut while you do this so that the loop doesn't move too much. You're going to push it through the back of the loop. So it's like that. And then with our yarn, we're going to wind it around the top. We're going to lift this loop up and pull it over. So now this is our loose yarn here. And then we're going to let it fall. Okay, I'm going to show you that again. Needle through the back of the loop. We're going to wrap our yarn around. We're going to lift it up and over. And then once it's behind, we're going to let it slide off. So right now the yarn is two pretty different colors, so it'll be a bit easier for me to show you this. So put the needle through the back. We're going to wind the pink yarn around. We're going to pull the blue yarn up and over and then let it fall. And you just keep going like that. go. That is our first row done. Now to do your second row, you're basically just going to do the exact same thing. Flip it like this. And then once we've got it flipped around, we're going to keep the loops at the top, just like we were doing before. And then we're going to do the exact same thing. So we're going to, through the loop at the back, wind it around, bring it up and over, and let it go. You're just going to keep going like that. All right, we have now done our cast on row, our first knitting row, and our second knitting row. I hope you feel very proud of yourself, because learning how to do this can be very frustrating, especially when you're just starting out and you don't have any of the muscle memory yet. I highly recommend, if you've made it this far, or even if you haven't, if you're feeling at all frustrated, take a nap. Get a good night's sleep, put down your work, pick it up tomorrow. And then once you're well rested, once you're feeling like you've had a good long sleep, your brain has had a lot of time to retain the information that you're learning, pick it back up and keep going. So yeah, that's basically it. You just keep knitting row after row after row until it's the shape that you want. And once it is, come back to this video and I will teach you how to cast off. See you then. Welcome back. So here's how my washcloth has turned out. If you're making something square like I am and you want to test if it's actually square, of course you can measure it, but an easier way to do it is to just hold two of the corners together like that. And if the edges line up, then you got it. To cast off, you're basically just going to do one more knit row. So you're going to knit your first 2 stitches. And when you've got them on the other needle like that, you're going to take one and pull it over the other. And try to be as loose as you can when you do this, because sometimes the end can get all bunched up. I made that mistake once. And then you do it again with the next stitch. You're gonna take the lower one and lift it over. I'm gonna show you again because I got 2 different colors here. So we've got the purple down here and the blue up here. So what you're doing is you're taking the bottom stitch, in this case the purple stitch, and bringing it up and over and then letting it slide off. So when you get to your last 2 stitches, you're gonna bring that one up and over, and then you've got this one final loop, and this is when you're going to get your handy dandy scissors and you are going to cut the yarn. And then what I like to do is I like to stretch this loop out, and then I feed the little tail through, pull it nice and tight, and there we go. So now what you do with these little tail end bits is completely up to you. A lot of people will take a tapestry needle like this and kind of weave the ends back through. I don't personally prefer that. So what I do is I find a little loop at the end and I push the yarn through that. And then I'll usually do kind of a double knot. I'll like put it through once and then twice, and just pull that all the way down like that. Give it a good yank and then snip it off as close to the knot as I can. And then these little like pokey outy knotted bits, I just kind of poke those back in, and then there we go. All right, thank you so much for making it this far. I think I've covered everything, but if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I'll put my website in the doobly-doo. You can leave a comment, and if I get enough questions, maybe I'll make a video with follow-up questions, or I'll just get back to you. And with that, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you around on the web. Peace.